Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Eleanor Olszewski, and I'm the Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience and the Minister responsible for Prairie's economic development. I want to begin by thanking my colleagues standing with me. We just had a very productive discussion about the future of the Prairie's economy. You know, 3 years ago, the late Honourable Jim Carr championed and passed the Building a Green Prairie Economy Act, and he had a vision, and it was rooted in his very deep and passionate belief in the prairies and in the people who call the Prairies region home. He understood that a stronger, more resilient prairie economy would start with collaboration, as well as respect for the distinct strengths of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and a federal partner that actually shows up and listens. And so his vision really lays the framework and the foundation for the work that we're advancing today. So in a few minutes, I'll have the great honor of tabling in Parliament the first progress report, and that report was really mandated by the terms of the Act. And it's to bring the House up to date with respect to the work that's been done. So the meeting I had this morning with my colleagues really focused on not just that report, but also how we can adapt to a changing world and how we can meet this moment head on. That's why this morning we're really proud to launch the Prairie Partnership Initiative, or PPI, which is really a major step forward in how we support economic development across the prairies. This initiative will put the Green Prairie Economy Act really into motion, into action, by coordinating federal investments to reflect prairies-wide economic realities. The West has a lot of what the world wants, and the PPI is designed to streamline really how the federal government interacts with and supports businesses and empowers them to deliver. We know that for companies that are too big to be startups, but not yet major projects, there's a gap. There's often a funding gap, a funding desert, if you will, and navigating federal programs can be really challenging. So what this initiative does is it brings multiple departments together, with Prairies Can leading the way. And this initiative makes it easier for small to medium-sized businesses and high-impact community projects to access the support that they need so that they can succeed. Our new government is committed to working with prairie leaders more closely than ever. We want to really assist and catalyze projects that create good jobs, enhance national and regional supply chains, and grow the prairie economy. You know, this is a really pragmatic approach, I think, and as someone who grew up in Alberta, I know the drive and the innovation and really the entrepreneurial spirit that make the prairies such a powerful economic region and engine. So through the Prairies Partnership Initiative, we're focused on boosting productivity, diversifying our trading partners, and making sure that our economy remains strong, that it remains secure and competitive in the years to come. You know, when the prairie provinces succeed, Canada succeeds. So I'd now like to pass the microphone to Ginette Levac. Ginette, please.
Merci. Bon matin à tous. Je suis ravie de me joindre à la ministre Olszewski et mes collègues ici pour vous présenter le partenariat des prairies. Nous sommes fiers de ce pas en avant important qui soutiendra l'économie de nos provinces dans les prairies et en collaboration avec les peuples autochtones dans ce monde en pleine évolution. Basé sur le projet de loi initié par l'honorable Jim Carr, cela permettra de créer un environnement propice au développement et de coordonner les investissements fédéraux dans toute la région. L'Ouest du Canada possède ce que le monde entier recherche. Le PDP est conçu pour rationaliser la manière dont le gouvernement soutient les entreprises et leur donne les moyens d'atteindre leurs objectifs. Nous savons très bien qu'il y a des petites et moyennes entreprises ainsi que des initiatives communautaires ambitieuses qui cherchent à se développer et qui peuvent trouver le système fédéral complexe. Avec l'aide de Prairies Can, le PDP leur permettra d'accéder au soutien dont elles ont besoin de manière plus efficace et rapide. Notre gouvernement est déterminé à collaborer avec les communautés et les leaders autochtones à travers le Manitoba, la Saskatchewan et l'Alberta pour créer de bons emplois, pour renforcer les chaînes d'approvisionnement nationales et régionales et favoriser la croissance de notre économie afin de bâtir un Canada fort. Merci beaucoup.
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to my colleague, Minister Eleanor Olszewski. Minister, this Prairies Partnership Initiative exists because you listened and you pushed to make this happen. Saskatchewan is really grateful for that. Out on the prairies, we don't spend a lot of time talking ourselves up. We just get the work done. But today is a good day to say out loud what we all know. Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan help power this country. The world is changing, but the prairies are ready. From our farmers, our ranchers, to our miners and energy workers, to our innovators and small business owners, our prairie provinces punch well above our weight. The Prairie Partnership Initiative is about turning those strengths into more opportunity. It means that when a rural municipality, an Indigenous nation, or a local business that has a big idea, or even a small local project that needs doing, they don't have to knock on 10 different doors in Ottawa. Our minister has made it possible to come to one table and actually get things moving. This is what applying a rural lens can do. For our rural and remote communities, that's huge. It could mean better roads and infrastructure, stronger local businesses, more jobs close to home, and new chances for young people to stay, work, and raise their families in the communities they love. And I want to be crystal clear. Saskatchewan counts. The prairies count. Our communities from the big cities to the smallest northern villages are not on the sidelines of Canada's stories. We are right at the heart of it. I am proud to be part of this government that recognizes that when the prairies succeed, Canada succeeds. Oh, what?
We have to take a pause for the parade.
Oh, okay. Speakers.
Thank you, guys. We'll just let the parade go by, then you guys can start over again.
I've been yelled at before.
The speaker guy must be important.
Sir, one of them will turn right here.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is unexpected.
Halftime show.
Pas de problème. Normalement, on attend que ça sonne. Ouais, c'est ça. Parfait.
It's on you.
Thank you very much. Again, finally, I want to add that this initiative honors the vision of the late Jim Carr. I think his name will resonate throughout the walls of this building for years to come. The late Jim Carr also wanted to usher in the building of a Green Prairie Economy Act, one strong prairie region, helping build one strong Canadian economy. That was his vision. So again, I want to thank Minister Olszewski and to Jim, and thanks to everyone who helped bring this very important project forward. I'm excited for what this will do for our region. I'm excited for what this will do to our communities. I'm excited about our shared futures across the prairies. I'm excited what this will mean for Saskatchewan and, of course, Canada as a whole. Thank you. Merci. Merci, Joe.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Carr. I'm the Member of Parliament for Winnipeg South Centre, and it's really an honor to have the opportunity to be here this morning for a number of reasons. I want to start by offering some expressions of gratitude to Minister Olszewski for her leadership, and also to Deb Gray, who is here, and the Deputy Minister for Prairies, who has been a tremendous guide for making sure that my father's legacy and vision moves forward. I remember going to my dad's house one day and knocking on the door, and he said, "All right, I've got the idea for my private member's bill." And he told me, and I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, it's going to be called the Green the Prairies Economy Act. And the goal is going to be to bring stakeholders from across the region together to make sure that we can propel the prairie region into the future with prosperity and strength." And I looked at him and I said, "That's nice. There's absolutely no chance that this is going to pass." And undeterred, thankfully, by my pessimism, in his typical optimistic way, he moved forward. And as a result of that, we're here today, and as the minister, I think, is just in the chamber now behind us tabling the report, it gives me an opportunity to reflect a little bit on his legacy. And it is not an exaggeration for me to say that he spent his dying days literally in the chamber behind me today, giving what would be his final speech on this matter. The vote was subsequently held a few days after he passed in the Senate, which ultimately led to the royal assent that turned this into the law of the land. Friday will mark 3 years since his passing, and I think that there is no better way for us to celebrate his accomplishments and his legacy than by having the opportunity to stand before you here today to reflect on his contributions, but more importantly, his contributions within the context of this bill. The most important thing for him that I took away from my conversations that we had together over the course of the period in which he was introducing this bill and then subsequently lobbying for it with colleagues was that it would bring people to the table. He gave a wonderful interview with David Cochrane on Power and Politics just a few days before he died. And the crux of the conversation centered around this idea of broadening the leafs at the table, metaphorically, and ensuring that there was a space for people across the prairie region to come together, working in that pragmatic way that prairie folk do to make sure that we could elevate the interests of our region, but to do so in a way, as Buckley said a moment ago and as Jeanette said, in partnership with Indigenous peoples, with business, with industry, and with partners across government. And I think that that's being realized here today. I know that the minister is going to be back in just a moment, so I'm happy to speak to this, and I'm not sure if Jeanette and Buckley were available for questions as well, but maybe we'll spend a few minutes discussing further if there are any questions before the minister arrives. But thank you for the opportunity to address you here this morning.
I do have questions, but it's related to the pipeline vote as well. I know we're talking about the prairie economies. A pipeline is something that Alberta wants, Saskatchewan has talked about as well. Why is your government going to be voting against the opposition motion today?
Yeah, I can discuss. We would defer to our colleagues who will be making comments and announcements around that a little bit later this morning. So we are not to discuss that ourselves, but that our colleagues, Minister de Brussen and others, will be commenting and speaking to that specifically. Yeah.
And maybe I'll put that to the Minister now that she's arrived too, before putting everyone else on the spot as well. Minister, I was just asking a question about why the government is voting against the opposition motion today about a pipeline that took language from the MOU. I know you were at the signing in Calgary with Danielle Smith and Prime Minister Mark Carney, so I would just like to hear from you about why the government is voting against it today.
Well, I'd just like to start off by saying that indeed, thank you very much for the question. And I was, in fact, in Alberta at the time that the MOU was signed, and I can tell you that I was filled with an incredible sense of pride, both as someone from Alberta and also as a minister in this government. And so, you know, it's interesting that the MOU makes reference to, or that the motion, Conservative motion makes reference to the MOU. And I really think, though, that it's, at this point in time, close to Christmas, with the spirit of unity, having had the MOU just signed very recently, I think that the Conservatives are using this really as a bit of a performative stunt at this point in time. There's already a signed agreement between the Premier of Alberta and the Prime Minister, and there's not any need for anyone else to insert themselves in the context of that agreement. And so, you know, I'm really here to talk about the Prairie Partnership Initiative today, and to me, it's just another way, it's another avenue in addition to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Premier and the Prime Minister. The Prairie Partnership Initiative just builds on, you know, what we're trying to do with respect to growing a really strong Prairies economy. And at this point in time, that's more fundamentally important than ever. But I thank you for the question. Thank you.
And what is it about the language that is so divisive that makes it a stunt?
Well, I guess most importantly, it's that it doesn't include most of the terms of the MOU. But really, we are here today to talk about the Prairies Partnership Initiative, and it's a really important initiative because it permits a way for business people, proponents, to contact through Prairies Can to engage with various government departments for the purpose of getting funding for projects. And I think the really important thing about it is Prairies Can funds projects, but they're projects up to a certain dollar value. And then there's a bit of a no man's land between that and the Major Projects Office. And so this Prairies project table that invites a number of different government departments to consider projects is fundamentally important in terms of getting funding, obtaining funding for those projects. Thank you.
Sorry, I just came in. I don't know if the questions have started yet. On the MOU tonight, MOU motion, Poilievre's motion, how are you all going to vote?
I'm sorry?
The Poilievre's motion tonight about supporting the construction of a pipeline and taking note of the Memorandum of Understanding between Alberta and Canada, how are you guys going to vote on that motion?
Well, I think, as my colleague Ms. Levac has already said, there will be a discussion later this morning. I think you'll be speaking to some of my colleagues about that. So that's all I'll say about that at this point.
So how are you going to be voting on behalf? I mean, I think it's important to hear from you, though.
I think we've heard enough confusion there. They're trying to discuss two different things, and it's really not helping their press release any. Though I understand both are important. Anyway, we hope you will leave your comments on this, and we will be back. You guys have a good morning. I'm going to like, comment, share. Bye-bye.